Before diving into this incredible story, remember to subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications. Here, every story has something to say, and you won't want to miss a single one. The manor of Madame Winthrop perched atop the hill overlooking the town, it shone in the last rays of the setting sun. Golden lanterns and crystal chandeliers illuminated the facade, casting shimmering light onto the paved walkways and manicured gardens. That evening, the local high society gathered for the annual ball, an event where sharp eyes scrutinized every dress, every smile, every movement. Lila Thompson stood at the entrance, her hands trembling slightly, a faint veil of nervousness hidden behind her simply tied-back brown hair. Her dress, a discreet blue, was neither extravagant nor from a famous designer. She knew that by crossing that threshold, she would enter a world where appearance commanded respect, and where the slightest misstep could become a source of ridicule. As soon as she took a few steps into the hall, the murmurs began. "She's ordinary. That girl is really not elegant. Ugly, almost." Each word seemed to hit Lila like a light, icy rain, but she straightened up and moved forward, determined not to be crushed by the judgments of others. A few meters away, near the grand marble staircase, stood Ethan Carlisle, a millionaire renowned for his colossal fortune and quiet charisma. Unlike the other guests, he didn't laugh or whisper. His dark, penetrating, and attentive eyes scanned the room with silent curiosity. Then, his gaze settled on Lila. What he saw was not the banality others murmured, nor the flaws invented by their arrogance. He saw an inner light, subtle but undeniable, dignity, gentleness, and a quiet strength that few possessed. For a few seconds, the world around Lila seemed to disappear. The laughter and whispers faded away, and he walked towards her with natural confidence. "Dance with me," he said simply. Lila looked up in disbelief and felt a mixture of surprise, fear, and excitement wash over her. The other guests were now silent, some in astonishment, others with jealousy. This simple gesture, this invitation, had already changed everything. For the first time in her life, Lila understood that she didn't need the approval of others to feel beautiful or worthy. This ball, which promised to be a judgmental nightmare, would become the beginning of a transformation she could never have imagined. And that evening, beneath the crystal chandeliers, the young girl who had been judged ugly would begin to shine. Music rose in the manor's hall, a slow, haunting melody that sent shivers down the guests' spines. Couples glided effortlessly across the polished parquet floor, their movements carefully studied, their smiles carefully poised. Lila Thompson, her heart skipped a beat as Ethan Carlisle approached her. His smile was both reassuring and mysterious, and his dark eyes shone with intense curiosity. He extended his hand towards her with effortless grace, as if inviting someone to dance were the simplest gesture in the world. "Dance with me," he repeated, this time in a slightly softer tone. Lila hesitated for a moment, aware of the critical stares surrounding her. The whispers resumed. Who is she to dare dance with him? It's impossible. Yet, despite this pressure, she felt a strength awaken within her. With a slight nod, she placed her hand in Ethan's. The warmth of his touch surprised her, and a strange feeling of security washed over her. As they walked towards the dance floor, the crowd parted slightly, almost instinctively, fascinated by this unexpected contrast, Lila's simplicity and Ethan's presence. For the first time, she felt seen, not for her appearance or her clothes, but for something deeper, something Ethan seemed to perceive effortlessly. The music changed rhythm, and their bodies synchronized, as if they had always known how to dance together. Each movement, each step, revealed an unexpected harmony. Lila found herself smiling, laughing softly when Ethan took a small, unexpected step to the side, and her eyes shone with the simple but sincere joy she had long hidden. Between two steps, Ethan murmured, "You dance with a grace that no one here has ever noticed before." These words touched Lila more deeply than any superficial compliment. She understood that her worth was not defined by the criticisms of others, but by the confidence and light she knew how to shine within herself. Around them, the murmurs and mocking glances gradually faded away. Some guests looked away, unable to hide their astonishment. Lila, however, felt her heart swell. For the first time, she was no longer invisible, nor judged, but admired for who she truly was. When the dance ended, Ethan gently guided her to the edge of the dance floor. "You have a rare talent," he said, smiling. I don't know what to say," replied Lila, still slightly trembling. "So say nothing. Just let the music speak." And for the first time in her life, Lila understood that that evening, she was no longer just the young woman judged ugly at the entrance to the ball. She was the one who had just captivated the most admired man in the city, simply by being herself. After the dance, the murmur of the ball gently resumed around them. The guests glided across the floor again, but Lila and Ethan withdrew to a quieter corner, near the large windows overlooking the garden illuminated by golden lanterns. The soft glow of the lamps touched their faces and created an almost intimate atmosphere, as if the rest of the world had vanished. Ethan looked at her attentively, a slight smile on his lips. "You have something," he said in a low but confident voice. "Something that no one here seems to see." Lila, still reeling from the dance and the man's admiring gaze, blushed slightly. She didn't know what to say. I guess I'm not used to this kind of compliment," she murmured. Ethan nodded understandingly. "I can imagine. But there's one thing I've learned: true beauty isn't measured by a dress or a forced smile. It's measured by the light a person emits from within. And you, Lila, you radiate." The words resonated deeply within her. She had always felt that light inside, but the outside world had too often made her doubt it. For the first time, someone truly saw her, beyond appearances and judgments. They sat by the window, watching the sunlit gardens. Ethan, ever attentive but natural, asked a simple question. "Tell me, Lila, what makes you happy?" Lila thought for a moment. The answer was not simple. Her joys had often been discreet, almost invisible. "The little moments," she finally replied. "A sincere smile, a kind gesture, conversations where I feel understood." Ethan smiled, as if silently approving. "So you and I have something in common. I prefer real moments, those that can't be bought or manufactured." They talked for a long time, the conversation flowing naturally, without pressure or artifice. Lila recounted her simple dreams, her modest but sincere ambitions, and Ethan shared his journey, the pressure of success, the sometimes suffocating loneliness despite wealth, and the importance he placed on sincere relationships. While the rest of the room seemed to be bustling about for appearance's sake, in this quiet corner, a connection was forming. Lila felt a new confidence settling within her. She no longer needed to seduce or impress, only to be herself. As they left the window to return to the center of the ball, Ethan gently took her hand. "It wasn't your appearance that made me invite you. It's the person you are." Lila felt a shiver run down her spine. For the first time, she understood that this evening was not just a moment of dancing, but the beginning of an adventure that would transform her life. As Lila and Ethan walked back towards the center of the hall, the music changed to a more upbeat tune. The couple started dancing again, but the looks directed at Lila were different now. Some guests leaned in to whisper to their neighbors, while others looked away, embarrassed by their own initial judgment. Who is this girl to captivate Ethan Carlyle like this? She's not dressed like the others, but he admires her. Those whispers, which once would have made her uncomfortable, now just rolled off her. Lila felt a new mixture of pride and inner peace. For the first time, she understood that her worth wasn't determined by designer dresses or the superficial standards of high society. Ethan, still by her side, slipped his hand into hers naturally, as if they had always danced together. "Are you feeling well?" he asked gently. "Yes, more than ever," replied Lila, surprised by the confidence she felt. At that moment, a small group of guests, jealous and surprised, tried to get closer to observe more closely. Among them was Madeline Harper, a young woman known for her icy elegance and her penchant for gossip. She frowned when she saw Ethan giving Lila his full attention. "It's impossible," she murmured. "Who is this girl that Ethan Carlyle is talking to her like that?" But the more she tried to criticize, the more Lila radiated. The young woman didn't let jealousy or stares distract her. Every smile she gave Ethan, every natural gesture, transformed the judgment of others into silent admiration. As she stepped and moved across the runway, Lila realized something fundamental: she didn't need to be who society wanted her to be. She could simply be herself, and that authenticity had more power than any superficial beauty. Ethan, sensing Lila's transformation, whispered in her ear. "Look around you. The criticism fades away, and the truth emerges. You are incredible just the way you are." A shiver ran through Lila. For the first time, she felt that her fears and doubts no longer defined her. The mocking whispers no longer had any hold on her. She was free, strong, and admired for who she truly was. The dance continued, and with each step, Lila felt a growing certainty within her: this evening would not simply be a ball. It would be the beginning of a profound transformation, a journey where she would learn to recognize herself, to value herself, and to inspire others, without ever depending on the superficial judgment of society. After several dances, Ethan invited Lila to follow him to a more intimate corner of the manor, away from the bustle of the ball. There, a small alcove furnished with red velvet sofas and a low table lit by candles created a soft and warm atmosphere. The subtle scent of fresh flowers mingled with the fragrance of the polished parquet floor and the sparkling chandeliers. "Please sit down," said Ethan, gently pulling out a seat for Lila. She sat down, still a little trembling, while he stood before her, as if he wanted to preserve this moment from the outside commotion. For a moment, they remained silent, each observing the other with curiosity and admiration. Then Ethan broke the silence. "I don't often dance with women, and even less so in this way. You surprised me, pleasantly." Lila felt a slight blush rise in her cheeks. I don't know what to say. I didn't think I could impress someone like you." Ethan smiled gently, almost mischievously. "You impress me because you are yourself. Not because you are trying to please. Not because you are wearing an expensive dress or perfect makeup. Just, you." These words touched Lila deeply. All her life, she had been judged for her appearance, her simple clothes, her lack of extravagance. And now, this man, whom everyone admired and envied, truly saw her. "I always thought that balls, social events, all that, it was about showing what you have, not who you are," Lila murmured. "But you seem to see beyond that." Ethan sat opposite her and looked out the window at the illuminated gardens. "I learned to look at people, not appearances. Wealth, prestige, titles, all of that is superficial. What matters are values, dreams, the light that someone radiates despite everything." Lila felt a shiver of admiration and emotion wash over her. She finally felt understood, respected, and recognized for her true nature. Their eyes met, and a comfortable silence settled in, filled with possibilities and promises. Ethan broke the silence with a smile. "Tell me about your dreams, Lila. What do you truly want in life?" Lila hesitated, then, with newfound sincerity, she spoke of her modest but significant ambitions: to help others, to find meaning in her actions, to live with integrity and authenticity. She spoke of her past fears, the judgments she had endured, and her determination to no longer let criticism define her worth. Ethan listened attentively, occasionally punctuating his sentences with simple but profound comments. "That's exactly the kind of strength that few people possess. You are rare." For Lila, this moment was a revelation. It was no longer just a dance or a ball. It was an encounter that promised to change her perception of the world and of herself. She realized that she could exist fully, be seen and admired for her true essence. As she left the alcove to return to the main room, Lila felt a growing certainty within her: something profound had just been born between her and Ethan, a complicity that would blossom far beyond this ball. A few days after the ball, Lila was still reeling from what had happened. Every time she thought back to the moment Ethan Carlyle asked her to dance, a mixture of wonder and nervousness washed over her. She couldn't help but smile as she remembered his attentive gaze and the way he listened to her, as if she were the only person in the room. One afternoon, while she was working in her small bookstore, her phone rang. The screen displayed an unknown number. "Hello, this is Ethan Carlisle," said a familiar voice, but one still tinged with gentleness and confidence. "Oh, hello," stammered Lila, surprised but delighted. Ethan quickly explained why he was calling him. He had to go to New York for a prestigious charity exhibition and wanted to invite her to accompany him. Lila felt her heart leap. New York, a vast city, full of luxury and opportunity, seemed a world away from her quiet life. The idea of going with a millionaire she barely knew was both exciting and terrifying. I don't know what to say," she murmured, uncertainly. "Don't say anything for now. Just consider this a chance to discover something new, and perhaps to discover yourself," Ethan replied with a reassuring smile. After a moment of reflection, Lila accepted. She understood that this invitation was not just a trip to another city, but a step towards a new life, an adventure that could change her perception of herself and the world. A few weeks later, she found herself on Ethan's private plane, watching the city recede through the window. Her initial fear gradually gave way to excitement and curiosity. Beside her, Ethan spoke naturally and simply, mentioning philanthropic projects, anecdotes from his travels, and sometimes silences that spoke louder than words. In New York, Lila discovered a different world. The skyscrapers, the bustling streets, the ceaseless lights, everything seemed overwhelming but at the same time fascinating. Ethan gently guided her, introducing her to circles of philanthropists and artists, galas and exhibitions where superficiality rubbed shoulders with authenticity. As the days went by, Lila realized something important: she was no longer afraid of her appearance or the judgment of others. She could walk with confidence, speak with sincerity, and attract attention with her personality and authenticity. One evening, after a gala, Ethan took her to the terrace of a hotel, overlooking the illuminated New York skyline. "Look at all these lights," he said. "Some shine brightly but are cold and empty. You, Lila, you shine differently." Lila felt a shiver run through her body. This trip was not just a worldly experience, it was a revelation of her own worth, her inner light, and the quiet strength she had long ignored. And as the city lights twinkled before them, she knew her life had just taken a decisive turn. A profound transformation had begun, guided by her budding connection with Ethan and the growing confidence she was beginning to place in herself. The days passed in New York, and Lila felt increasingly at ease in this world that had once seemed so inaccessible. She discovered the beauty of genuine encounters, the value of authentic conversations, and the power of simply being herself. Each event, each meeting, strengthened her confidence and self-assurance. At a gala held atop a skyscraper, surrounded by hundreds of lavishly dressed guests, Lila caused a sensation. Unlike other women adorned in sparkling gowns and imposing jewelry, she wore a simple yet elegant outfit that highlighted her natural grace. The whispers began. "Who is this woman? She is different. But yet, Ethan Carlisle is by her side." These words, which might once have made her doubt, now filled her with pride. Lila understood that distinction lay not in extravagance, but in authenticity and the presence one exuded. Ethan, always attentive, never let superficial compliments distract her from her simplicity. He slipped his hand into hers, offering her a knowing smile. "You see? Even here, where everyone seems to shine artificially, it's your light that attracts attention." Several guests, intrigued, began to observe Lila closely. Among them Madeline Harper. Lila, who had already tried to judge her at Madame Winthrop's ball, frowned at the number of eyes now turned towards her. Jealousy flickered across her fixed smile, but Lila paid it no mind. During the evening, Ethan introduced Lila to philanthropists, artists, and entrepreneurs. Each interaction revealed more of her ability to captivate with her sincerity and intelligence. Her conversations, filled with empathy and thoughtfulness, left a lasting impression on those she spoke with. At one point, Ethan led her to a balcony overlooking the illuminated city. "Do you see these lights?" he said softly. "Some are bright but empty. You, Lila, have something that no amount of wealth or adornment can create." Lila smiled, feeling a new strength growing within her. She had left this world as a stranger judged by her appearance, and now she walked through it with confidence and respect. Criticism and judgment had faded away, replaced by genuine admiration. That evening, she understood something essential: her transformation was not only external. She had found the courage to exist fully, to assert herself without denying her nature, and to shine without seeking to please everyone. And in this immense city, among thousands of artificial lights, Lila finally shone with her own light, the one that came from within and that no one could take away from her. A few weeks after arriving in New York, Lila was invited to a particularly prestigious gala, held at one of the city's most famous hotels. The extravagantly dressed guests vied with one another in sophistication and luxury. Lila, true to herself, chose a simple yet elegant dress, reflecting her authentic personality rather than societal expectations. While she was exchanging a few words with philanthropists and artists, an icy voice interrupted her conversation. "Who invited this?" began Madeline Harper, always present and visibly annoyed by Lila's growing reputation. "A simple-minded girl at this gala?" Silence fell around them. Several guests averted their eyes, embarrassed by Madeline's arrogance. Lila felt Ethan's gaze on her, attentive but calm. A shiver of nervousness ran through her, but instead of fleeing or responding aggressively, she took a deep breath and said in a clear, calm voice, "What you call flaws or simplicity, I call strength. And if you don't see it, that's not my problem." A murmur of admiration rippled through the assembly. Even those who didn't know Lila were struck by her courage and dignity. Ethan, smiling proudly, placed a reassuring hand on her arm. "Exactly. You don't let yourselves be defined by their judgments. That's your true power." Madeline, surprised by Lila's quiet strength, didn't know what to say. She walked away, leaving the other guests to silently admire her. For the first time, Lila realized that her courage wasn't just about standing up to criticism, but about staying true to herself in the face of intimidation and arrogance. Later that evening, as Ethan and Lila watched the skyline from the hotel balcony, he whispered, "You did more than defend yourself. You showed who you really are. That's how you earn respect, not by following other people's standards." Lila felt a shiver run through her body. For her, this gala was no longer just a social event. It was a test of courage, an ordeal that would reveal her inner strength and authenticity. She understood that this kind of confrontation wouldn't be the last, but that from now on, she was ready to face the world with confidence and dignity. And in this gigantic and luminous city, surrounded by criticism and judgment, Lila understood that her true strength came not from her beauty, nor from her wealth, but from her courage to remain herself, no matter what. In the weeks that followed, Lila became more assertive in this new world. She had discovered self-confidence, the strength of her inner light, and the ability to captivate without artifice. But beyond the galas, the travels, and the social interactions, a deeper, more intimate connection was developing with Ethan Carlisle. They shared simple but precious moments, walks in Central Park at dusk, quiet cafes where they talked about their dreams and memories, and discussions about life, morality, and the values they cherished. For Lila, these moments were revealing. Ethan wasn't just a rich and admired man, he was attentive, patient, and deeply human. One evening, after a long day of visits and conferences, Ethan invited Lila to the roof of his apartment, which offered a panoramic view of the illuminated city. The light from the skyscrapers and streetlights bathed their faces in a soft, warm glow. "You know," said Ethan, his eyes shining with sincerity, "I've never met anyone like you. Someone who doesn't try to please, but simply radiates by being herself." Lila felt her heart beat faster. She was used to superficial admiration, but what she felt with Ethan was different. Deep, authentic, reassuring. "And you, Ethan, you're different from the other men I've known. You see people for who they really are." A comfortable silence settled in, heavy with unspoken emotions. Ethan gently took her hand and squeezed it lightly. "I don't want things to change because of this world," he murmured. "I want us to simply be ourselves, away from prying eyes, judgments, and appearances." Lila smiled, feeling an intense warmth wash over her. For the first time, she understood that what she was feeling wasn't simply admiration or gratitude. It was something deeper, a quiet love, built on respect, admiration, and a rare connection. In the days that followed, their relationship remained discreet. Ethan didn't seek to flaunt their connection, and Lila no longer felt the need to impress or please. Their bond was built on authentic moments, genuine laughter, and deep conversations. Lila understood that love could be quiet, without ostentatious displays, but of unparalleled intensity. It was a love based on trust, recognition of the other's worth, and mutual respect. And as the city bustled around them, amidst neon lights and skyscrapers, Lila finally felt whole. She was no longer the young woman deemed ugly and ordinary at Madame Winthrop's ball. She was admired, respected, and, above all, loved for who she truly was. A few months later, Lila was invited to another prestigious ball, this time organized by New York high society to celebrate major charities. But unlike at Madame Winthrop's ball, this time Lila didn't enter the room trembling or worrying about the judgment of others. She walked confidently, back straight, head held high, her smile reflecting the newfound self-assurance. Ethan, at her side, introduced her to several influential figures. This time, the looks they received were no longer mocking or skeptical, but admiring and respectful. Even Madeline Harper, present again, felt her irritation rise at seeing how Lila captivated attention, not by artifice, but by her grace and authenticity. The music swelled, and, as at the first ball, Ethan asked Lila to dance. But this time, Lila felt neither fear nor doubt. She knew who she was, and her confidence shone through in every movement. The entire room watched them, captivated by their natural connection. Between steps, Ethan whispered in his ear. "Look at them. All these eyes aren't here to judge you this time. They see what I've always seen. You are magnificent, Lila, not for what you wear, but for who you are." Lila felt a profound emotion wash over her. All the past humiliations, mockery, and doubts had transformed into strength. This ball wasn't just a social event, it was the culmination of her personal transformation. At the end of the dance, the crowd applauded spontaneously. Some guests, impressed by her courage and poise, came to sincerely congratulate her. The mocking whispers that had once followed her had died away, replaced by unanimous respect. In a corner of the room, Ethan took her in his arms and whispered, "You see? The world can recognize the value of those who dare to remain true to themselves." Lila smiled, her eyes shining with pride and emotion. She was no longer the young woman judged to be ugly and insignificant. She had become a woman admired, confident, strong, and loved for who she truly was. And as the ball continued around them, Lila knew that her transformation was not only social, but intimate, profound, and lasting. She had learned that true beauty was not found in dresses, jewels, or forced smiles, but in the light that emanates from within. For the first time, she felt whole. She was no longer just Lila Thompson, she had become Lila Carlisle, a woman who knew who she was and who was ready to shine in the world, in her own way, with authenticity and courage. On the last evening of Lila's stay in New York, Ethan invited her to a private reception held in a sumptuous art gallery. The walls were adorned with contemporary paintings, and modern sculptures stood under spotlights, creating an atmosphere that was both artistic and elegant. Lila, dressed in a simple yet sophisticated gown, entered confidently, aware that this evening would be a symbol of all she had accomplished. The guests, including several influential figures and philanthropists, recognized her immediately and turned to her with admiration. The once mocking glances had given way to recognition and respect. Even Madeline Harper, present for the last time, could not hide her astonishment tinged with silent envy. Ethan, standing beside her, whispered in her ear, "Tonight, you're not just dancing for me. You're dancing for yourself, for everything you've become." And when the music began, they started to dance, this time in the center of the room, under the spotlights that seemed to follow their every move. The dance was not just another step on the floor, but a testament to courage, transformation, and inner light. With each step, Lila felt completely free. Every admiring glance, every genuine smile she received was a confirmation of her worth and strength. She no longer needed external approval, she had found herself, and that was the true triumph. At the end of the dance, Ethan took her in his arms, and a respectful silence filled the room. All the guests understood, without a word, that this young woman, once considered ugly and insignificant, had earned her place in the world, not through prestige or money, but through her courage, her authenticity, and her heart. "You're incredible, Lila," Ethan murmured, his eyes shining. "And this is just the beginning of your story." Lila smiled, moved and confident. She knew she would never again be defined by mockery or superficial judgments. She had become a strong woman, admired, loved, and respected. That evening, under the gallery lights and the admiring gazes of all, Lila fully understood that true beauty is not measured by what one possesses or by appearance, but by courage, dignity, and the light that one lets shine from within. And as the music faded and the guests dispersed into the New York night, Lila, hand in hand with Ethan, smiled. She had not only conquered the outside world, but above all, she had found and embraced her own light. The ball was over, but his real life had only just begun.